Hello YouTube, and welcome to another how-to video, and in this episode I'm going to be talking about farms. So, this is some very badly rough-made terrain that I've just world edited, very, very poorly, but the terrain doesn't really matter, it's more a concept idea. So, a lot of the time on the server I see people who do farms. I need a hoe, like this. So they'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, just plant this really quick, like that, and then I'll get a stick so we can grow it all. Just click, click, click. There we go, and there we go. Okay, so this is sort of the basic farm that I see on the server, and it's great for survival mode, but for creative and realism and stuff like that, it's not that great. And I've also seen on the server when people do stuff like the carrots, and they'll just sort of alternate like this. So they'll go like that, and then they'll do the same with potatoes. And you know, again, it does add a bit of variation, but it's not sort of realistic, and it's not that great, to be honest. Now, we have this sort of terrain here, and one of the things that you can do is really work with the terrain. So a lot of people would sort of keep it quite square and keep it to one area, but you have a huge area like this, and I just need to check my chat off, forgot about that. So I'm going to, what's the ID for farmland? 60. Right, so if I just get a brush to brush sphere 65 and mask 2, so I'm going to mask the grass and just click about like this. Make sure I try and cover all of the areas like that. And what's great about the way the server is now is that we have changed so that the ticks I've turned off. So one, dirt won't turn to grass. You will have to change that yourself, hopefully. Which also means that when you're doing farmland, it won't change the dirt. On the old server, when I had to try and do my farm for my hobbit village, you know, you had to do a brush of like 3 or 4 in size, try and place as many seeds as you could, then right click again with the brush, then place as many more seeds as you could, and that was a pain. And but it also means that the wheat won't grow on its own, so you do have to individually go through and place all of that. So I'm just going to fill this all up with wheat. It's going to take me a while, and then I'll cut to when I've finished that, okay? So I'll see you guys in a sec. Okay, so we're back, and we have a beautiful golden field. Now, I did tell a lie before, wheat does grow. It's the first time I've tried using wheat on the server, so I didn't know. Apparently people have said that it's turned off, but it was growing for me, and I don't know an easy way. Command /grow or grow all wasn't working. Maybe that command's disabled, I'm not sure, but yeah. So that just took a while for me to place every wheat block. And as you can see, this looks a little bit better than it did before with just a square, and it's going up and down in levels. So it looks a little bit nicer, but there's still a few things that we can do. Now I'm going to show you one sort of style that people have used, and I think it might have been Jamsy Boy who first used it. I think it was certainly the first time I saw it anyway. And that is by replacing sort of this block here, this line, and just placing cobblestone in like this. And then I'll go over the top bit in a minute. Oops, didn't mean to get rid of that. Where's my hoe gone? Hoe. Go there, and I'll just place the seed, and I'll leave it there, and you'll be able to watch it grow. So just for God's sake. just replacing this line of crops with cobblestone like this. Really, really simple. Just so you got a sort of thin wall, sort of barrier to hold back the crops. And this is a really nice design, really simple. And then on top, just sort of mix it up with slabs and stir blocks and things like that. So I'm just going to sort of place every now and then, place a block. Try not to make it too sort of symmetrical and planned. The more random the better, and obviously just put in your stir blocks facing in different directions is always a good thing. Just keep it mixed up nice and random. One can go there, another one there, join it up a little bit, put one there. And if we go back, you can see it adds a little bit more detail to the farm. So that would be a good way, sort of, if you're at the edge of the farm, maybe. I'm going to leave this top bit for now, and then the rest of the farm I'm sort of going to do differently. Another small detail that you can do, which I saw in someone else's farm. It was on this server, but it was a while ago. I can't remember if I'd done a plot review on the plot or not. But it's a really, really cool idea. If the ticks aren't growing, I'll just get a stick out as well to show you this. If the ticks aren't growing, which I'm going to try have a word with Lord Dakar if I get a chance to speak with him. He's very busy, so it doesn't always happen. But you know, you can sort of just left click one of these, and you see how you get these green ones, sort of ungrown. So they look good just to mix in it like this. Just do it nice and random, just sort of round like that, mix them up a bit. You know, that instantly makes the plot look a little bit more interesting, the farm. Another thing you can do is put in tall grass like this, and never thought about doing this before, and it actually does add to it, and it adds a little bit of an extra sort of colour to the green of the grass. You see you've got those bits just sticking up, and you can either use the normal grass or the tall grass. I suppose if you just put some normal grass in here, and maybe even some ferns will look nice in there, but you can't really see the normal size grass as much. If I just sort of replace this one and put the normal size grass in, it doesn't really stand out as much, so that's why I've gone for the tall grass. But you know, maybe you can use the ferns as well, maybe they will look good. Let's test out that theory. Now, it's a little bit more interesting, but I wouldn't use the ferns, to be honest. Definitely doing this with the wheat, and you also have, you know, if you hit back twice, you got different heights of those green ones, and it definitely enhances the look of the wheat field. If you've got these bits that are green and ungrown, it makes it look a bit more realistic, and it's in patches and stuff like that. Now, going on to realism and sort of medieval times. If a field, well, it might have been this big, it would not have been covered in wheat like this. You use the field rotation system. Now, if you're not familiar with the field rotation system, farmers would have 3 or 4 fields in an area, in which they would have 2 would be growing crops, and the other 2 would be left fallow, and that means that they have time to let the soil regrow its nutrients and stuff. So say, I'll roughly cut it out, and I'll use this stone actually to do so. So we'll just sort of cut a straight line down the middle, and we'll just sort of go sort of rough around the edges and then come across here as well. And this field rotation system is something I've tried to use in my Hobbit build, where I had 3 fields growing the crops. So you know, you've got 1 field would be there, and then we can go straight along this contour here. This is a great idea. Great plan that's sort of worked out nicely. Go along there like that. So there we go, we've got 3 fields there. This one's a little bit bigger, so I suppose we could just do go there, and down there, and here, like that. So we've got these fields, and then say these two fields would be left empty, and these two would be growing the crops. So what would happen then is at the end of the year, when these get crops get sown and they get picked, the following year it would be this field and this field where the crops grow, and then these two would be left empty, and then the year after that these two would grow and them two are left empty. So each field sort of has 2 years to regrow all its nutrients and soil and stuff. So we're going to do that now. I think I'm going to get rid of this field because it's the smallest. So I'm just going to get rid of all of the wheat, and then I'll cut back because that's probably going to take me at least 5-10 minutes. Okay, so now we've just emptied 2 of the fields. I figured it would be a little bit more interesting to do the ones that are opposite each other rather than ones next to each other. We're going to sort of work on a really nice, horrible mixed terrain for these. So we're going to need a brush of, say, 3:3, which is the permanent dirt. Oh, sphere 3:3, and comma, I think it might be 88:1. Not too sure. We'll find out. And size 2. I only want a small brush. And mask 60. So with that mask, we can just click here and here. Yep, it was done. Don't worry about the horrible netherrack, it'll make sense in a minute. So just sort of replace like that. There you go. One of them's turned out right. I'll just get my biome tool. If you're using World Edit on the server and the textures aren't what you wanted, you just need to update the chunks like that. So just right click with your biome tool, left click to reset the biome back to what it was, and all will be well. So what this is the netherrack, as you can tell, with a nice horrible mud texture. And oh no, it's soul sand, is it? Soul sand? Is it soul sand? I can't remember. Yeah, soul sand. There you go. So soul sand, and it's this nice muddy texture. It looks really nice, really cool, mixed in like that. And again, I'm going to do the same over here, but because this one, maybe this one's the one that's been left fallow the longest, I'm just going to also add 3:1, which is the dirt with tufts of grass around it. And again, just right click around, fill in those areas like that. There we go. Update the chunks again. Right click and left click with the blaze rod. And there we go, and it all looks quite nice. So, as you can see, there's difference there. We have that, and then we've got this one. And I actually think I might add just grass in there as well. See what that looks like. So if I just do a mask of 3, 88, and 2. I should be able to click freely now without it affecting the farmland. And there we go. Update with the blaze rod. There we go. That looks a little bit nicer. There's a little bit more green now over here. So this is the very basic field rotation system. And if you went back and changed these haven't seemed to have grown very much, have they? After me making a big deal about them growing. So yeah, just go back and sort of left click on some of these, get some nice green ungrown crops coming in here as a nice mix. Just round like this. Same over here, just left click a couple of times, doesn't have to be any pattern going on. In fact, the less pattern that you can spot, the better. Normally when people do stuff like this, the pattern that you will see is that they've just gone in a straight line. So try and, swerve around and mix it up a little bit. You can see down here it was all neglected, so you can tell that they've not really put much thought into it. So there you go, the farm's looking a little bit more interesting. Now there is one more final thing that I want to talk about with farms, and you can't really quote me on this one. I'm not 100% sure if this one's true or not, but there was sort of like strip farming, if that's what you want to call it. So the strip farming was so that all the farmers got a good mix of the crops, so that not everybody had sort of the same part of land, like the best land, the more fertile land, the longest and stuff like that. So it was sort of one field like this size would have been cut up into 3 or 4 smaller sections, and then the farmers would have had a strip each, just so that they could mix up sort of the fertileness and it will be a bit more fur. So I'm going to do that for like all the contours, just like this. And then what you would find as well is there'd be different crops growing in each of these fields. So if you was going to do this sort of style, this is where you could add your potato crops, your let's get rid of all that, potato crops and your carrot crops. So again, I'm just going to go off camera, and I'll probably do it for this smaller one, and maybe the one up there in between those wheat fields, just to mix it up a little bit. So I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so now I've just gone through and I've got my carrots down here and potatoes up here. And you can see we've got some nice like colour variation going on in between these farms now. And I've also gone over these with the slabs and stairs like we did at the top up there. Added in bits of our stairs and slabs. And yeah, these are actually changing now. I can actually tell because I did quite a few in this field. So the crops do grow, unfortunately, so definitely going to see if it's a possibility that we can get that to turn off, because these types of fields are really, really nice. It adds a lot more variation, makes it a bit more realistic. And again, you can do the same with these crops as well. If you just sort of grow it down a little bit, you can see there's a few different ones, a little bit of variation, is there? I'm sure there was. But you know, if you didn't want to, I think there is with these. Just, there you go. Now you can see, if you just hit it twice, make it go back a few blocks, and you can see the different colour coming out in the green in the fields. So this is not even without mixing up carrots and potatoes. So this is trying to keep it very realistic. You know, you would have one crop in one field. But if you were just doing it for the sake of Minecraft and for the sake of making it look pretty, then, you know, by all means, mix up the carrots and mix up the potatoes, and it will add to the plot a little bit more. And because these are quite strong, I'd probably have more non-grown than full-grown, just to really add to the sort of grown look. Just like that. There we go. So you can see more of the colour variation. And try and mix up where you've got straight lines of sort of one type. Come on, there we go. And here maybe, you know, one there, a couple there, this back corner as well, like that. Get rid of that one as well. So there you go, it looks a little bit nicer. We'll try to do more variation here, but I'm not really seeing a colour change. Just sort of, I don't think the carrots change too much. Not really any discernible difference that I'm seeing. Just sort of right click that over a bit. We can see there. I added these bits in. So now with the carrots it's not a great deal of difference, but you can actually see a slight difference. You can see it's a little darker green here, a little brighter green when they're full grown, the carrots. But you definitely want to have more, you know, sticking up than you do more. You want to have less full grown crops, that's the easier way of saying it. And it would make it look a little bit nicer. Now, with these field separators, you don't have to do this. If I go over to my Hobbit plot, I will show you the farm that I've done over here. And there's still a few things that I need to change over on this side of the plot. Oh dear. There we go. We fly through there. There we go. So as you can see, I've got a field full of potatoes, and I've got this field here. Just do speed 1. You can see I've got the field rotation, and instead of using the walls, I've used hedges to separate it. And it does make it look a lot more sort of lush and green and nice and hobbity. And because this is all owned by one farmer in this area, you don't need to have the stripes for the different crops like I did over there. You know, I was saying it was like quite staggered. If you Google it, and research it a bit, it'll make sense, I suppose. But yeah, so I couldn't get the variation in because obviously my crops grow. So I need to have a word with Dakar about that. But yeah, it looks really, really nice, and I really like this. So we'll just go back here. So that's just another variation you can do. Having the, what's it called, bushes, hedges in between it, and that makes it a lot more lush and green. And the other thing that you can do is add a tree. You know, trees in farms, it's really nice, looks quite good together. So you can add a tree in there as well, and that really adds to the atmosphere and stuff as well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Maybe you've learned some stuff about farming and medieval farming. And yeah, so there's always lots you can do, lots of little details you can add about the ferns and the tall grass mixed in there. You've got these separations, you've got it being realistic with the strip farming type thing. You've got the field rotation system in there. Again, we've got grass in this one and no grass in that one because of the yearly switch round between the crops and stuff. So yeah, there's always lots to change, even with small details like this farm. Okay, so I'm not really sure where I'm going to cut this in, but I've just sort of realised just after recording that, you know, if we're going to go really realistic with this strip sort of section, then we would do something like this, with the cobblestone walls as well, adding more these around, and you know, this one would be fallow, this one would be used, that one would be used, that one would be fallow, something like that. And again down here as well, we'd have to have something like that, like this around, like that. Just, you know, keeping it more realistic. You want to separate these larger sections as well, something I forgot to do. And another great idea by somebody who's just came over on the server, which is Torioli, done a great western plot review. He said add some poppies into the wheat fields, so you know there's something else to add a little bit of detail. And I really like this idea, especially next to the green of the crops. It looks really, really nice. So yeah, a bit of extra added detail there by putting poppies in between all of your crops like so. So if you're going to mix in maybe the tall grass, you're going to mix in the poppies. If the ticks get turned off on the server, you can have the different wheat textures. And it would all look really, really cool. All that's sort of needed really is to mix up the fields that are being used and the fields that aren't being used to make it that little bit more realistic, like I said before. And that's just a really simple case of swapping these two fields round, or swapping that one and this carrot one down there, maybe using one of these and maybe, well, probably using that one and leaving that one the way it is, and it really starts to come together quite nicely. So that's definitely it this time. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.